The Castle of Otranto by Horace Walpole. Chapter 1. The Strange Prophecy. Long ago, in a faraway land, there stood a dark and mysterious castle called Otranto. The castle was old, with tall towers, thick stone walls, and narrow windows that looked out over a wild forest. Inside lived a powerful lord named Manfred, who ruled the land with an iron fist. Manfred was a proud and selfish man. He cared more about keeping his family's power than about being kind or fair. His son Conrad was set to inherit the castle after him. But Conrad was weak and sickly, and everyone whispered that he would not live long enough to become the next lord. On the morning of Conrad's wedding day, the whole castle buzzed with excitement. Conrad was to marry Isabella, a beautiful and gentle princess from a nearby kingdom. Everyone hoped this marriage would bring peace between the two lands. But something strange happened that morning. As Conrad walked through the castle courtyard, a loud crash echoed through the air. The ground shook, and everyone froze in fear. When they looked up, they saw a giant helmet, larger than any human could wear, fall from the sky and crush Conrad beneath it. The people screamed and ran to help, but it was too late. Conrad was dead. Manfred arrived moments later, his face pale with shock. "What sorcery is this?" he shouted, looking at the massive helmet. No one could explain where it had come from or why it had fallen. A wise old man named Father Jerome, who served as the castle's priest, stepped forward. "My lord," he said softly, "this is no ordinary event. It is a sign, a warning." Manfred glared at him. A warning? From whom? Father Jerome hesitated before speaking. "From the heavens, perhaps," he said. "There is an ancient prophecy about this castle. It says that the Castle of Otranto will pass from your family when its true owner grows too large to fit inside these walls." Manfred's eyes widened with fear. "No," he shouted. "That cannot be. My family has ruled this land for generations." Father Jerome nodded sadly. "The prophecy speaks of a giant, a rightful heir who will claim the castle when the time comes." Manfred refused to believe it. "This is nonsense," he snapped. "I will not lose my power because of some silly story." As the day went on, Manfred grew more and more desperate. Without Conrad, he had no male heir to continue his family's rule. His only child left was Matilda, his daughter. But she could not inherit the castle because she was a woman. Then a terrible thought came to Manfred. "If I cannot have a son," he muttered to himself, "perhaps I can still keep the castle by marrying again." His eyes turned to Isabella, Conrad's widow-to-be. She was young, beautiful, and now free from her engagement. If Manfred married her, he could produce another heir and keep the castle for his family. That evening, Manfred called Isabella to his chamber. "Lady Isabella," he said, trying to sound kind, "I know this has been a difficult day for you, but I must ask you something important." Isabella looked at him nervously. "Yes, my lord," she asked. Manfred took a deep breath. "I want you to marry me instead of Conrad," he said. "Together, we can ensure the future of Otranto." Isabella gasped in horror. "Marry you? But you are old enough to be my father." Manfred ignored her protests. "It is for the good of the castle," he insisted. "You will be safe here, and we will have a strong heir." Isabella felt trapped. She knew Manfred was dangerous, and she did not want to marry him. Desperate to escape, she turned to Father Jerome for help. "Please," she begged, "you must protect me from him." Father Jerome understood her fear. "Do not worry, my child," he said. "I will hide you until this madness passes." That night, Father Jerome helped Isabella flee the castle. They crept through secret passages and hidden doors, avoiding guards and staying in the shadows. Finally, they reached a small church outside the castle walls, where Isabella could hide safely. Meanwhile, strange things began happening inside the castle. The giant helmet remained in the courtyard, unmoved by anyone's efforts. Shadows moved on their own, and cold winds swept through the halls even though the doors were closed. The servants whispered among themselves, saying the castle was cursed. Manfred grew angrier and more suspicious. "Who dares defy me?" he roared. "Find Isabella and bring her back." But no one could find her. It seemed as though the castle itself was protecting her. As the days passed, Manfred became obsessed with finding the true owner mentioned in the prophecy. He searched everywhere, questioning servants, villagers, and even strangers passing through the land. But no one could tell him who the rightful heir might be. One day, a young man named Theodore arrived at the castle. He was brave, handsome, and skilled with a sword. He claimed to be a traveler seeking shelter, but there was something mysterious about him. Manfred sensed it immediately. "Who are you?" Manfred demanded. "And why have you come here?" Theodore bowed politely. "I am simply a wanderer, my lord," he said. "I mean no harm." Manfred studied him closely. "You look familiar," he muttered. "Have I seen you before?" Theodore shook his head. "I do not think so, my lord. Despite his suspicions, Manfred allowed Theodore to stay in the castle, but he kept a close eye on him, watching for any signs of treachery. Little did Manfred know, Theodore held a secret, one that would change everything. He was the son of a noble family who had once ruled Otranto before Manfred's ancestors seized the castle. Could he be the true heir mentioned in the prophecy? As the days went on, strange events continued to unfold. A ghostly figure appeared in the castle corridors, wearing armor too large for any living man. Voices whispered in empty rooms, and the giant helmet seemed to glow faintly in the moonlight. What secrets lay hidden within the walls of Otranto? And how would Theodore's arrival affect the fate of the castle? Chapter 2. Secrets and Shadows. The days following Theodore's arrival at the castle were filled with unease. The giant helmet still lay in the courtyard, untouched and mysterious. Strange noises echoed through the halls at night, and the servants whispered about ghosts and curses. Manfred grew more suspicious of Theodore with each passing day. One morning, Manfred summoned Theodore to the great hall. "Tell me," he said sharply, "why do you travel alone, and why did you come here?" Theodore kept his expression calm. "I am a wanderer, my lord," he replied. "I seek adventure and knowledge. When I heard of the strange events at Otranto, I wished to see them for myself." Manfred frowned. "Strange events, you say? Do you believe in prophecies and magic?" Theodore hesitated before answering. "I do not know what to believe, my lord, but I have seen things in this world that cannot be explained." Manfred stared at him, unsure whether to trust him or not. Finally he said, "Very well, you may stay for now, but do not wander where you are not wanted." Theodore bowed politely and left the hall. As he walked through the castle, he felt a strange pull, a sense that he belonged there, though he could not explain why. He decided to explore the castle further, hoping to uncover its secrets. Later that evening, Theodore met Matilda, Manfred's daughter. She was kind and gentle, unlike her father. They spoke quietly in the garden, away from prying eyes. "Why are you here?" Matilda asked softly. "This is no place for a traveler," Theodore smiled. "I came seeking answers," he said, "but I find only questions." Matilda nodded. "This castle hides many secrets," she said. "My father fears the prophecy. He believes it will destroy us all." Theodore looked at her curiously. "Do you believe it?" Matilda sighed. "I do not know," she admitted. "But I fear my father's actions will bring ruin upon us. He grows desperate and desperate. Men do terrible things." Before they could speak further, a loud crash echoed through the air. They turned to see a servant running toward them, shouting, "My lady! My lord! Come quickly!" They followed the servant to the courtyard, where another strange event had occurred. A massive hand, larger than any human's, had appeared on. The castle wall. It pointed directly at the giant helmet. The crowd gasped in fear. Manfred pushed his way through, his face red with anger. "What sorcery is this?" he shouted. "Who dares mock me?" Father Jerome stepped forward, his voice trembling. "My lord, this is a sign," he said. "The prophecy is unfolding." Manfred glared at him. "Enough of your nonsense!" he snapped. "I will not let some ghostly hand take what is mine." He ordered the guards to remove the hand, but no matter how hard they tried, it would not budge. It seemed as though the castle itself had grown alive, resisting Manfred's commands. That night, Theodore wandered the halls alone, unable to sleep. As he passed the chapel, he heard soft voices coming from inside. Curious, he peeked through the door and saw Isabella speaking with Father Jerome. "I cannot stay here," Isabella whispered. "Manfred will find me soon." Father Jerome shook his head. "You must remain hidden," he said. "If Manfred marries you, it will doom us all." Theodore stepped back, careful not to make a sound. He realized that Isabella was in grave danger, and that he might be the only one who could help her. The next morning, Theodore approached Father Jerome. "Father," he said, "I wish to help Lady Isabella. She does not deserve this fate." Father Jerome studied him carefully. "Why do you care so much?" he asked. Theodore hesitated. "Because it is the right thing to do," he replied. "And because I believe I am meant to play a part in this story." Father Jerome nodded slowly. "Very well," he said. "But be careful. Manfred suspects everyone. If he learns of your involvement, he will not hesitate to harm you." Theodore promised to be cautious. That night, he helped Isabella escape the church and led her deep into the forest. They traveled under the cover of darkness, avoiding roads, and staying hidden in the shadows. As they rested beneath a tree, Isabella looked at Theodore gratefully. "Thank you," she said. "You risk much for me." Theodore smiled. "It is nothing compared to what you endure," he replied. "I only wish to see justice done." Unbeknownst to them, Manfred had sent soldiers to search for Isabella. He was furious that she had escaped again. "Find her," he roared, "and bring me the man who helps her." Meanwhile, back at the castle, Matilda noticed her father's growing madness. He spent hours pacing the halls, muttering about the prophecy and the giant helmet. She feared for her own safety, and for the future of the castle. One evening, as Matilda prayed in the chapel, she heard a voice behind her. "Lady Matilda," it said softly. She turned to see Theodore standing there. "What are you doing here?" she asked. "If my father finds you—" "I mean no harm," Theodore interrupted. "I only wish to protect you, and to uncover—" "The truth about this prophecy." Matilda hesitated, then nodded. "I trust you," she said. "But we must be careful. My father grows more dangerous by the day." Together, they began to investigate the castle's secrets. They discovered hidden rooms, ancient writings, and clues about the true heir mentioned in the prophecy. It seemed that the answer lay buried deep within the castle's history. As the days passed, strange events continued to unfold. The giant hand on the wall glowed faintly at night, and shadows moved on their own. The servants whispered of a ghostly figure who roamed the halls, searching for something, or someone. What secrets would Theodore and Matilda uncover? And how would these revelations affect the fate of the castle? Chapter 3. The Ghostly Night. The Castle of Otranto grew darker and more mysterious with each passing day. Theodore and Matilda spent their time searching for answers, piecing together clues about the prophecy and the strange events that haunted the halls. Meanwhile, Manfred became increasingly desperate, his anger boiling over as he struggled to maintain control. One evening, Theodore and Matilda ventured into a part of the castle that had long been abandoned. Dust covered the floors, and cobwebs hung from the ceiling like ghostly curtains. The air was cold, and every step they took echoed eerily in the silence. Why would anyone seal off this part of the castle? Matilda whispered, her voice trembling. Slightly. Theodore held up a lantern to light their way. Perhaps there are secrets here that Manfred does not want uncovered, he replied. We must be brave. As they moved deeper into the forgotten wing, they discovered a heavy wooden door reinforced with iron bars. It looked ancient, untouched for years. Theodore pushed against it, and with some effort, it creaked open. Inside was a small, dimly lit chamber. On the walls were faded paintings of knights in armor, their faces stern and proud. In the center of the room stood a stone pedestal, and on it rested an old, dusty book. The Journal of the First Lord of Otranto, Theodore murmured, brushing away the dust. He opened it carefully, revealing pages filled with handwritten notes and sketches. As he read aloud, Matilda listened intently. It speaks of a great injustice, Theodore explained. Centuries ago, the rightful heir to Otranto, a noble knight named Alfonso, was betrayed by his brother. His brother stole the throne and cursed the castle, vowing that Alfonso's descendants would one day reclaim it. Matilda gasped. Could this Alfonso be the true heir mentioned in the prophecy? It seems so, Theodore said. And if I am right, then the ghostly figure haunting the castle might be Alfonso himself. Before they could discuss further, a sudden noise startled them. Footsteps echoed in the corridor outside the chamber. They quickly hid behind a tapestry, holding their breath as two guards passed by, muttering to each other. They're looking. For us, Matilda whispered once the footsteps faded. We must leave before my father finds us. Theodore nodded, but as they turned to go, the lantern flickered and went out. Darkness enveloped them. Just as Theodore reached for his flint, to relight the lantern, a cold wind swept through the room, extinguishing even the embers. Do you feel that? Matilda asked, her voice shaking. Before Theodore could answer, a faint blue light appeared in the corner of the room. It grew brighter, taking the shape of a tall figure clad in shimmering armor. The figure's face was obscured by a helmet, the same giant helmet that had crushed Conrad. The ghostly knight raised its hand, pointing toward the book on the pedestal. Though no words were spoken, Theodore felt a message in his mind. Find me. Free me. Matilda clutched Theodore's arm tightly. What is it doing here? She whispered. I think it wants us to uncover the truth, Theodore replied. This night, it must be Alfonso. The ghost lingered for a moment longer, then vanished as suddenly as it had appeared. The room fell silent once more, but the air felt lighter, as though the knight's presence had left a trace of hope behind. We must take this book, Theodore said firmly. It holds the key to ending the curse. Matilda hesitated. But what if my father discovers we have it? He will punish us. He cannot stop destiny, Theodore said. If we do nothing, the castle and everyone in it will remain trapped in this nightmare. With the journal safely tucked under his arm, Theodore led Matilda back to her chambers. Along the way, they avoided the guards and slipped through secret passages, careful not to draw attention. Later that night, Theodore pored over the journal by candlelight in his room. He read about Alfonso's tragic fate and learned that his remains were buried beneath the castle in a hidden crypt. According to the writings, only a descendant of Alfonso could enter the crypt and lift the curse. As dawn approached, Theodore realized something important. His resemblance to the portraits of Alfonso, combined with the strange connection he felt to the castle, suggested that he might be the rightful heir. But proving it would require courage, and risking everything. The next morning, Theodore shared his findings with Matilda. I believe I am Alfonso's descendant, he confessed. That is why the ghost appeared to me. It wants me to find the crypt and restore justice. Matilda's eyes widened. If you are truly the heir, she said, then my father's reign is over. But we must act carefully, Theodore warned. Manfred will not give up his power easily. We need proof and allies. Just then, a servant burst into the room, breathless and frightened. My lady! "My lord!" he exclaimed. "Your father has found Lady Isabella!" Theodore and Matilda exchanged worried glances. "Where is she?" Matilda asked urgently. "In the forest," the servant replied. "He sent soldiers to capture her, but she fought back. Now they bring her here as a prisoner." Matilda turned to Theodore. "You must help her," she pleaded. "If my father harms her, I will never forgive myself." Theodore nodded. "I will go to her," he said. "But we must also prepare for what comes next. The crypt awaits, and time is running out." As Theodore prepared to leave the castle, Matilda gave him a small dagger. "For protection," she said softly. "May it guide you through the shadows." With determination in his heart, Theodore set off into the forest, knowing that danger lay ahead. But he also knew that the fate of Otranto, and the lives of those he cared about, depended on his success. What awaited Theodore in the forest, and how would he uncover the final pieces of the puzzle needed to break the curse? Chapter 4. The Rescue in the Forest. The forest outside the castle was dark and quiet, except for the sound of leaves rustling in the wind. Theodore moved quickly through the trees, his heart pounding with urgency. He knew that Isabella was in danger, and that Manfred's soldiers were close behind her. As he walked, he thought about everything he had learned. The prophecy, the ghostly night, the hidden crypt. It all pointed to one truth. Otranto's curse could only be broken by justice. And justice meant freeing Isabella, protecting Matilda, and reclaiming the castle for its rightful heir, himself. After a while, Theodore heard voices ahead. He crouched behind a tree and peeked out cautiously. A group of soldiers surrounded Isabella, who stood bravely despite her fear. Her hands were tied, but her eyes burned with defiance. "You will not win," she said to the leader of the soldiers. "Your master's greed will destroy him." The soldier sneered. "Silence." "Girl," he snapped. "Lord Manfred commands you, and you will obey." Theodore clenched his fists. He couldn't let them take her back to the castle. Taking a deep breath, he stepped out from behind the tree. "Stop!" he called loudly. The soldiers turned, startled. "Who goes there?" the leader demanded. "It is I, Theodore," he replied calmly. "Release Lady Isabella at once." The soldiers laughed cruelly. "You dare challenge us?" one of them said. "We are many, and you are alone." Theodore gripped the dagger Matilda had given him. "I may be alone," he said, "but I fight for what is right. Will you stand against me?" For a moment, no one moved. Then the leader drew his sword and charged at Theodore. The clash of steel rang through the forest as Theodore defended himself. Though outnumbered, he fought with skill and determination, striking down one soldier after another. Isabella watched in awe as Theodore battled the men. Finally, when the last soldier fell, she ran to him. "Thank you," she said, tears streaming down her face. "You saved me." Theodore cut the ropes binding her wrists. "Are you hurt?" he asked gently. "No," Isabella replied. "But we must hurry. My father's men will return soon." Theodore nodded. "We cannot go back to the castle yet," he said. "It is too dangerous. We must find shelter elsewhere." Together, they fled deeper into the forest, staying hidden among the trees. As they walked, Theodore explained what he had discovered. The journal, the ghostly night, and the hidden crypt beneath the castle. "Manfred's reign is built on lies," Theodore said. "If we can prove that I am the true heir, we can end this curse and restore peace to Otranto." Isabella listened carefully. "But how will you prove it?" she asked. "The crypt holds the answer," Theodore replied. "Alfonso's remains are buried there, along with evidence of his betrayal. Only a descendant of Alfonso can enter the crypt and lift the curse." Isabella frowned. "And you believe you are his descendant?" "I do," Theodore said. "Everything points to it. The visions, the journal, even my resemblance to the portraits of Alfonso. But I need your help to reach the crypt." Isabella nodded firmly. "You have my support," she said. "Whatever it takes, I will stand by you." As night fell, they found a small cave to rest in. Theodore kept watch while Isabella slept, his mind racing with plans. He knew that returning to the castle would be risky, but it was the only way to uncover the truth. The next morning, they set out again, heading toward a nearby village where Father Jerome lived. They hoped to seek his guidance and perhaps rally allies to their cause. When they arrived, Father Jerome greeted them warmly. "My children," he said, "you are safe here." "We need your help, Father," Theodore said. "The curse of Otranto can only be lifted if we prove my claim as the true heir. But Manfred will stop at nothing to keep his power." Father Jerome listened carefully as Theodore explained everything. When he finished, the priest nodded thoughtfully. "This is a grave matter," he said, "but I believe you are the key to breaking the curse." He turned to Isabella. "Lady Isabella, your courage has already played a vital role. Together, you and Theodore must confront Manfred. Not with violence, but with truth." Isabella bowed her head. "I am ready," she said. Father Jerome then gathered a few trusted villagers who were loyal to Alfonso's memory. "We will aid you in any way we can," he promised. "But be warned, Manfred grows more desperate by the day. You must act quickly." With renewed hope, Theodore and Isabella prepared to return to the castle. Father Jerome gave them a map showing secret tunnels that led directly to the crypt. "Use these passages to avoid detection," he advised. "And remember, faith and courage will guide you." As they left the village, Theodore felt a surge of determination. The path ahead would be dangerous, but he knew he was not alone. With awe, Isabella by his side, and Father Jerome's blessing, he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. What awaited them in the castle? Would they find the crypt and the proof they needed to expose Manfred's lies? Chapter 5. The Truth Unveiled, Theodore. And Isabella returned to the forest near the castle under the cover of darkness. Armed with Father Jerome's map and the courage of their cause, they approached the hidden entrance to the secret tunnels. The air was cold, and the moonlight barely pierced through the thick canopy of trees. "This is it," Theodore whispered, pointing to a narrow opening concealed by overgrown vines. "These tunnels will lead us directly to the crypt." Isabella nodded, her heart racing. "Let's go," she said firmly. "We've come too far to turn back now." They lit a small lantern and stepped into the dark passageway. The walls were damp, and the scent of earth filled the air. Every sound, the drip of water, the creak of their footsteps, echoed eerily in the silence. As they moved deeper underground, Theodore felt a strange pull, as though the castle itself was guiding them. After what seemed like hours, they reached a heavy iron door engraved with ancient symbols. Theodore pushed it open, revealing a vast chamber illuminated by faint blue light. In the center of the room stood a stone sarcophagus, its surface covered in carvings that told the story of Alfonso's betrayal. "The crypt," Isabella breathed, her voice trembling with awe. Theodore approached the sarcophagus and placed his hand on the cold stone. Instantly, the ghostly knight appeared before them, his glowing figure towering above them. He raised his hand, and the carvings on the sarcophagus began to glow. "Speak your truth," the knight's voice echoed in their minds. "Prove your claim." Theodore straightened, his voice steady. "I am Theodore, descendant of Alfonso. I have come to restore justice to Otranto and lift the curse that has haunted this land." The knight studied him for a moment, then nodded. "You are indeed of Alfonso's bloodline," he declared. "But the curse cannot be lifted until Manfred faces the consequences of his greed." As if on cue, the ground shook violently, and the walls of the crypt trembled. A loud crash echoed above them. It was Manfred, who had discovered their presence and was trying to seal the tunnels to trap them. "We must hurry," Isabella exclaimed. Theodore quickly examined the sarcophagus and found a hidden compartment. containing an ancient scroll. It detailed Alfonso's rightful claim to the castle and proof of Manfred's family seizing power through betrayal. "This is it," Theodore said, clutching the scroll tightly. "This will expose Manfred's lies." Suddenly, the ghostly knight spoke again. "Take this evidence to the people of Otranto. They must witness the truth and choose their future." With the scroll in hand, Theodore and Isabella raced back through the tunnels. When they emerged into the castle courtyard, they found chaos. Manfred had gathered the villagers, shouting accusations against Theodore and Isabella. "They are traitors!" Manfred roared. "They seek to destroy our home!" Before he could say more, Theodore stepped forward, holding up the scroll. "No." "Manfred," he said loudly, "it is you who betrayed Otranto. This scroll proves that your ancestors stole the throne from Alfonso, the true lord of this castle." The villagers gasped, murmuring among themselves. Father Jerome stepped forward, addressing the crowd. "This is the truth," he said. "For centuries, a curse has plagued Otranto because of injustice. Now, Theodore, the rightful heir, has returned to set things right." Manfred's face turned pale with rage. "Lies!" he shouted. "All lies!" But the villagers no longer trusted him. They saw the fear and desperation in his eyes and realized the truth. Slowly, they turned away from him, standing behind Theodore instead. "You have ruled through cruelty and deceit," Theodore said firmly. "Your time is over." At that moment, the giant helmet in the courtyard began to glow brightly. The ghostly knight appeared once more, towering over everyone. "Justice has been served," he declared. "Otranto is free." The helmet crumbled into dust, and the shadowy presence that had haunted the castle vanished. For the first time in centuries, peace returned to Otranto. Manfred fell to his knees, defeated. "What will become of me?" he asked weakly. "You will answer for your crimes," Theodore replied. "But I will not rule through vengeance. You will live as a reminder of the cost of greed." The villagers cheered, welcoming Theodore as their new lord. Matilda embraced her brother, tears of joy streaming down her face. "Thank you," she whispered. "You have saved us all." Isabella smiled at Theodore, her heart full of gratitude. "You have done what no one else could," she said. "You have brought hope to this land." As dawn broke over the castle, the first rays of sunlight illuminated the courtyard. The once dark halls of Otranto now felt warm and alive with promise. Theodore stood tall, ready to lead with wisdom and kindness. And so, the curse was lifted, and a new chapter began for Otranto, a chapter of fairness, unity, and hope. But even as the celebrations began, Theodore knew that his journey was just the start. There would always be challenges ahead, but with courage and faith, anything was possible. What adventures awaited Theodore and his people? Only time would tell. But one thing was certain: Otranto was finally free.